We hadn't heard from one voice in the Democrat Party in a while that I thought would be playing a much bigger role in this. Michelle Obama. I remember people were talking about how Michelle Obama was going to be the candidate. We just didn't know it yet. She wasn't in the primary, but she didn't have to run the primary. The Democrats were just going to say, you know what our best option is? We're going to run Michelle Obama. And I actually believe, I'm not saying I think she'd be a good president. I'm not even getting into any of that. I think she would have been a much more formidable candidate if she had decided to do it than Joe Biden, just based on Obama and the name recognition and the association and the Democrats loving the premier brand in the Democrat Party today is not Kennedy, is not Clinton, it's certainly not Biden, although I know he's running for president. It's Obama. We hadn't really heard much from Michelle Obama or Barack Obama. Barack put out a statement, and I call them as I see them, balls and strikes. Barack put out a decent statement about Trump and wasn't. I don't remember. I didn't see it being anything. I hope he gets better, but he deserved it. That's what most Democrats were doing on Friday. I think Barack actually put out a fair enough statement on it. I also think that Republican presidents, this is a perfect example of the unilateral disarmament that the GOP used to believe in. Bush never weighed in against Obama, really. And the Obamas clearly have weighed in plenty against Trump and in some cases, I think, very unfair and undermining ways. But Michelle Obama released a statement here because clearly the Democrats are going to throw everything they've got at Trump in these last few weeks. And there's a lot of pressure on Michelle Obama and Barack Obama to push Joe Biden, whom they didn't even want to run in 2016. Can we just take a moment to remember that for a second? Why wasn't Joe Biden the candidate in 2016 again? The guy had been vice president for 8 years. But he's so great. We can trust Joe. He's really smart. He's a really good leader. That's what they're telling us now. But in 2016, he was the VP. Shouldn't he have been he was younger? He was coming out of being the vice president. Shouldn't he have been the natural choice? What wasn't Joe Biden? I know the media, everyone wants you to forget about this. Wasn't he the natural choice? Why wasn't he the candidate for the Democrats again? Why weren't the Obamas coming out with all the most, flourishing praise imaginable for what a great leader Joe Biden would be as next president of the United States? No, it was all Hillary. It was her. It was her party. It was hers. And Bernie Sanders was the one, not Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders was the one that almost rained on the Hillary parade there. So that's what ended up happening. Now we have Michelle Obama coming out to speak specifically about the BLM riots. And I'm going to have an issue with this. Here's what she said. Play 12.
They're stoking fears about Black and brown Americans, lying about how minorities will destroy the suburbs, whipping up violence and intimidation. And they're pinning it all on what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement for racial solidarity. It's true. Research backs it up. Only a tiny fraction of demonstrations have had any violence at all. So what the president is doing is once again patently false. It's morally wrong. And yes, it is racist. But that doesn't mean it won't work.
Saying Trump's being a racist. Okay, well, we knew this was going to happen. But the part of this that you probably already guessed gets me the most angry is only a tiny fraction of the BLM movement for racial justice. No, BLM is a movement that is explicitly about cops murdering black men without consequence. That is what BLM is about. That's why it's Black Lives Matter. It's not the black equality movement. That's not what they call it. It's Black Lives Matter. It's about cops shooting unarmed black men. That has been from the very beginning the foundational lie of the movement, but that's their foundational concept. That's the thesis of it. Okay, so let's start with that. To say it's about black equality, that's actually not what the movie. I mean, that's broadening out the definition in such a way that it forgets what really this all got started. Why was black equality all of a sudden an issue again after George Floyd? Right. Why do they always talk about those kinds of cases? White cop, black suspect, or black citizen, individual, and a use of force incident. That's where. So let's see. That's dishonest. She's just being dishonest. Okay. that there's a dishonesty in this. Say what the movement's really about at this point, but they don't really want to talk about that because we've seen what ends up happening in some of these cases. We've seen that there's always more to the story than we're told in the beginning. And also, it's not a good look for the Democrat Party to really defame law enforcement right before we're going into a general election. So they're trying to move it away from law enforcement, the bad guys, but no, I'm not going to let them do that. I'm going to remember that. But a small percentage of the protests were not peaceful. Notice they won't say, no, I'm sorry. This is the great lie of the summer of 2020. Democrats were looting and rioting and destroying billions of dollars of businesses, of merchandise. Think about it. Remember, it's not even just what they steal and what they break. It's what this means for property values in the neighborhood where they've done the destruction. It's what it means for businesses that don't renew the lease, businesses that are out of business for a month or more while they try to get restocking of the shelves and try to repair the damage done, working through the insurance companies. And that was another a horrific line you heard from libs during all this. Oh, they have insurance. Has anyone ever dealt with an insurance company that was like, yeah, great, we're happy to write you a huge check for everything and make you feel better about everything. I know there are commercials like that, but a lot of insurance companies, not all of them, but a lot of them are very into, oh, sorry, you didn't see page 37, section C, subheading 1.2, because, you didn't have the required lock on that back door, so now you don't get your check. Sorry. All on you. So we've all been there. We all know what that can be like. But this story that it's a small percentage of the protests were not peaceful. Okay, let's play this game for a second. So does that mean it's not a big deal? There is not a single study you will see, not one study anywhere of COVID right now that will say that it has a 1% or more fatality rate. So what if I just walked around all the time saying, well, COVID is basically nothing because less than 1% of people die from it, which is what they say. Don't even pay attention to it. Less than 1% die from it. That would be, everyone would say, whoa, hold on a second. 1%, it's actually a lot of people. 1% of protests being violent, destructive, anarchic riots when you have hundreds of cities with protests all summer? That's a lot. That's a lot. That's indicative of a movement that is morally rotten and corrupt and wrong. That's what it shows. Oh, but it's a very small percentage. Really? A very small percentage of the large protests in large cities? Are we including 10 people getting together in a town of 50,000 somewhere saying Black Lives Matter as a protest the same way we would what happened here in New York where there was rioting on my block? Destroyed windows. It was a disgrace. These are all Biden voters. They want you to forget that now, though. They'll do anything. They're desperate. These are Biden voters who did this. They're Biden voters that while the country was dealing with a pandemic, thought that it was time to loot and riot and burn and attack. It's Biden voters who were shining lasers into the eyes of police officers, including federal law enforcement in Portland, to blind them, as if that's funny. If someone tried to blind me and I shot them, I would not feel bad about it. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You're going to try to take my sight away? I got a sidearm. I'm using it. But they pretend like it was no big deal. Just a small percentage. Michelle Obama, part of the propaganda. It's really just gross. That was a gross statement. It was wrong. Anybody who works in law enforcement, has law enforcement in their family, should be horrified at what the Democrat Party has become. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Let's be clear. The Democrats have a big chunk of their base that hate your husband, wife, son, daughter, you name it. If they work in law enforcement, despise them. It's an anti-cop movement. We've known this for a long time. It has been from the very beginning. Cops are bad. Cops are bad because they stand in the way of the anarchic mob from just being able to intimidate people and do whatever they want. So they hate cops, right? And cops are also in the leftist approach to all this, they're the manifestation of state authority that for an oppressive and racist state, which we're told America is, means that they are effectively the shock troops of racism. Police are the shock troops of racism in America. We have a racist system. Joe Biden in the last debate, Remember that? He was saying that, oh, the schools are racist and the courts are racist and the cops are racist and everything was racist. So the police become then instruments of force in a racist society for a racist system. So, yeah, they are the bad guys as far as Democrats are concerned, aren't they? Okay, libs. Stay with that. Make that case. Be honest about what you believe. You see, that's the big problem for Biden, for the Democrats right now in general. They can't be honest about what they believe. They need to fool people. They need to pretend that Joe Biden's just a guy from, decades ago. You can trust Joe. He's the guy who's at your son's Little League game, cheering on both sides, and he's such a good guy. Joe Biden is a clown and a jerk who's only ever cared about Joe Biden in his public life. That's it. Doesn't do anything for this country. Doesn't know enough to do anything for this country. This guy's not a leader. He's a sheep. He's a follower. Always has been. What do I need to do? Who do I need to get money from? And what do I need to say to get reelected? That's this guy's entire professional life. That's it. But no, he's going to keep saying all this stuff. Going to keep all these narratives going just for what? Wow, I'm looking at it's October 6th. We've got less than a month here, folks. I've been trying to prepare us all for how many lies they're going to tell and just how ruthless and shameless this whole thing is going to get. And I just want to say I am aware of the fact that it's not possible to really prepare yourself for this. Because whatever you think is the absolute gutter, whatever you think is the basement of ethics and morality and decency that Democrats will reach in this quest to defeat Trump in this reelection, they will go 10 layers below that. They're going to find a way. You've already seen it. I mean, you got a little bit of it. You're going to see more of it with the Amy Coney Barrett situation, where, what is that, next week, right? We're going to have the beginning of the hearings. They're going to say adoption, that they're going to write, and the media doing the bidding of the Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee, they're going to write pieces that call into question. They've already done it a little bit. Call into question the ethics of cross-racial adoption. They're going to do it. They're going to go there as immoral and awful as that is. They'll do it. And anything to show, even if they can't stop the ACB nomination, they want to make a show for their supporters, for the Democrat voters and the media, make a show of how much they hate her. So then that at least puts them in good standing with their own side. So even if they're just throwing, mud and proverbial bags of urine at the passing motorcade, so to speak, and it's not going to stop ACB from getting where she's trying to go, they want to make sure everyone knows how much they despise and hate her. And it's going to be disgusting. It's going to be truly disgusting. Get ready for it. But Biden's the good guy, represents good people in the Democrat Party. And these people are a bunch of, soy boy, snowflake lunatics. That's what the Democrat Party's actually become. So there was this NBC News town hall, and there were just some things that Biden said that I wanted to go over with you for a moment here. Play clip 8.
I grew up in a neighborhood where the guys I grew up in my working class neighborhood either became cops, firefighters, or priests. I wasn't qualified to be any one of them. I have had overwhelming support from police my whole career up until this year, as your husband will tell you. The vast majority of police are honorable, decent men and women who risk their lives every single day when they put on that badge and walk out that door. They have a right to come home safely. But there's bad apples in every profession. There are lousy commentators, there are lousy presidents, there's lousy senators, docs, and they should be, in fact, I don't know any police department around that isn't happy to get rid of a lousy cop because it just reflects on them.
So what's the problem then? Let's now make them explain what they're saying today as opposed to what they've been saying all summer. So if all cops are basically good except for a few bad apples, and police departments want to get rid of the bad apples right away, where's that systemic racism we're always told about? Where's that evil cop hunting unarmed black men that gets away with it and nobody cares that BLM is always telling us about? It can't be both. Right, but Biden's saying this now because he's hoping people don't listen to what he and his party were saying for the previous 4 or 5 months. Right? May, June, July, August, yeah. September. That's what's been going on. So he's telling us all that, first of all, I think it was funny. He's like, I wasn't qualified to be a cop. Why weren't you qualified to be a cop? I mean, I'm not saying that there's no qualifications, but I just think this guy's going to be president now. We should know. What do you mean you weren't qualified to be a cop? You need to have a clean record, no drugs in high school, and pass a test. I mean, that's pretty much usually what you got to do to anyway. I thought that, but he's trying to do the whole, I love law enforcement. I'm just good old blue collar Joe. I love law enforcement. Sure he does. And then there was this claim about his foreign policy credentials that makes no sense to anyone. Play 5.
Joe Biden was too centrist, too moderate, too straightforward. That was Joe Biden. I have taken on the very people that, in fact, we're worried about. I've taken on the Castros of the world. I've taken on the Putins of the world. I've taken on all these dictators. I haven't cozied up to them. I'm the guy that's been straightforward with them. I'm the guy that let them know it stops here. It stops with me. It stops with me as president. I am no more a socialist or a communist than Donald Trump is. Well, I won't say it. Anyway. So they need not worry. Just look at the record. There's not one single syllable that I've ever said that could lead you to believe that I was a socialist or a communist.
His party's a bunch of socialists, though. We all know it. And as for the Castro thing, no, the Obama administration was very friendly to the Castros. Obama was making concessions to Cuba with nothing in return because Obama, likes Cuba. That was clear from the administration. There was a real soft spot for Cuba. There was a soft spot for the mullahs in Tehran. Got to give them what they want. We got to bring them over to our side of things. We don't want them to be unhappy with us. And with Putin, when did Putin seize Crimea? Who was president? Let's do a quick fun review. When did Russia decide to go in heavy into Syria and establish themselves as a dominant player because they weren't worried about anyone pushing back on any of this? Or who was president during that? Oh, when the invasion of eastern Ukraine by Russian separatists happened, in the Donbass region, who was president then? It wasn't Donald Trump, and it wasn't George W. Bush. Oh, that's right, it was Obama, and Biden was his vice president. And who had the portfolio in the U.S. government when it came to foreign policy of Ukraine? And the only memorable thing about his time as that point man for the administration was his son getting paid millions of dollars to sit on the board of a Ukrainian gas company. Because that would never influence Dad's thinking, right? Because we're all supposed to be morons who don't understand what really was going on there. Right. Yeah. But notice here, I'm just so straightforward. I'm blue collar Joe. You can trust me. It's all lies, folks. All garbage.
It's time for roll call.
It is time for roll call. Although I didn't give you much of a preview of my feelings around the vice presidential debate tomorrow night. I just want to say, because we'll talk a lot more about this tomorrow, but we're going to have Vice President Pence and Kamala Harris. I can't tell if this is just going to be, I go back and forth whether it's just going to be really kind of a non-event or if it might be surprisingly interesting. Pence is a gentleman, so he's not going to be aggressive up there. That's just not his way. Kamala is not charismatic, so she's going to just do her usual talking points about stuff. But I think it could get interesting if Kamala tries to really, I think she may be the aggressor and may go after Pence quite a bit on that stage. Because you have to remember, she's also really auditioning for the role of president in waiting here. I think that's just fair to say. Given that Joe Biden is 78 years old and is going to be in his 80s in the middle of his first presidential term, there's a very real possibility that Kamala Harris is going to have to step up and take his job. So she's going to want to make a bit of a splash. And if she just does her talking points and Pence does his, I feel like it's going to, no one's even really going to remember it the next day. I mean, who even remembers the first debate at this point? I feel like it's eons ago now. But she may decide to try to go after Pence a little bit. I think that would be interesting. I kind of want to see beast mode Pence. I don't know if we'll get there or not, but I'd like to see Pence roll up the sleeves and see what he's got. Look, the guy was governor of Indiana. I mean, he's been in the game. He knows how to get his message across, certainly to his own constituents. So we'll see. I'm going to watch it. I think I'm going to probably live tweet it, and it might be the most interesting part of the whole thing. But we'll see. Larry, why don't they just throw out of the press briefing a reporter who asks a question that has been answered, especially when they ask if the president is going to denounce white supremacy again? Shields High. Well, Larry, there's I understand why you'd feel that way, and it is annoying when they ask the president to denounce white supremacy when he's already done it 100 times. But, you start kicking people out of the press briefing, and then you turn them into First Amendment martyrs. And, look at someone like Jim Acosta, who fortunately no one really thinks about or cares about anymore. But this is a guy who just built a name for himself by being the really unhinged opposition to Trump. And that's how he became a household name. I mean, in conservative households for the purposes of mockery, but you guys know who Jim Acosta is? So do I. Other than that, he's just a completely replaceable journalist. He could be a journo for, the local broadcast news station in Seattle, Washington or something. The guy could be anywhere. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Totally replaceable. But by being crazy anti-Trump, but still pretending to be a journo, he put himself in a position where he built up quite a career for himself. So there is that. We'll have to see. Producer Mark, was there like a news channel you grew up watching?
Not really. I guess ABC 7 in New York was always the local channel.
Well, I wonder what your local. I liked local news when I was a kid. I remember watching it. I actually watched the WPIX channel in New York. Because they also.
There were.
I'm sorry.
There were a couple good ones that they're interchangeable when it's local news.
Yeah, but I liked it too because they would also run a lot of cheesy action movies before the local news. So I'd get to watch Chuck Norris and Schwarzenegger movies from 15 or 20 years ago or whatever, and then I get to watch my local news and learn about how Myrtle the turtle in Central Park was saved despite being run over by a bicycle. Those are very important stuff.
I believe that's the channel I watched most of my Seinfeld reruns back in the day before streaming was a thing.
There we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to start watching some Seinfeld so I can throw Seinfeld references into the show so you can catch them and realize that I've got some Seinfeld skills. I haven't. There's how many seasons are there? Like how many are there?
I think between 8 and 10, somewhere
8 and
like
10.
that.
There's a lot of seasons. But how many? It's like 20 episodes a season or something like that.
Around that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Seinfeld out there, but I could catch up and watch some of it. Do you think it all holds up still to this day?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any show that holds up from the 90s better. Certainly not the bad show like, Friends.
I mean, you just throw Friends under the bus. They're redoing Friends. Did you see that?
They're going to redo a terrible show? Why?
I mean, let's not call Friends terrible. Let's not get crazy.
It was not good.
I mean, I think you're not giving Joey and Chandler enough credit here, but I think they're redoing Friends, an entirely new cast. I think that's actually happening.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew they did like a sit-down special for HBO Max with all 5 of the characters. Yeah. But,
yeah.
I would never watch
I
that.
tried with Snow Princess last night. We tried this new show, Evil. It's on Netflix. It's kind of like an, investigating exorcism, paranormal activity kind of show.
I would so much have preferred a show with Mike Myers just being Dr. Evil. Sounds much better.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Myers in his prime was fantastic. So he was absolutely great, back in the day. I thought I saw I Married an Axe Murderer is a movie that I like, even though it's a bad movie that I like. I don't care that it's. I'm getting too far off. You've never seen that, right?
No, but I was going to say bad movies that everyone likes. Austin Powers has to be in there.
I don't think that's a bad movie. I think it's.
You don't think Austin Powers is bad? It's
No.
just so cheesy.
No, but it's supposed to be.
Fest.
It's intentionally cheesy.
And that's why it's an intentionally good bad movie.
I like Masters of the Universe because Dolph Lundgren is running around fighting monsters, and it's supposed to be like a superhero movie, basically. and he's wearing a mankini with a cape, and that's it. It's like, what is this? They don't have shirts back in He-Man land or whatever? Anyway, I'm just saying.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, they did the same thing in the movie 300, which is a fantastic movie, too, where these guys are all walking around shirtless with red capes on, which is not how the ancient Greek phalanx would fight.
It doesn't have to be historically accurate. It has to be entertaining.
And it sufficed in that regard. I will tell you that for sure. It was very, very good. All right, back into roll call. We got Daniel. I read that Steve Scully, the C-SPAN moderator for the second presidential debate, was a former intern for Joe Biden during his time in the Senate. If we thought Chris Wallace was bad, I can only imagine that this next debate will be even worse. How does something like this happen? How does the Trump campaign agree to these moderators? In fairness, I think a former Celebrity Apprentice contestant should moderate the third debate. I nominate Gary Busey for the role. Okay. First of all, Gary Busey fan, he really carried Point Break on his shoulders. So we should all be on the same page with that one. Gary Busey is the best part of Point Break. Although I will say Keanu and Patrick Swayze had pretty good on-screen chemistry. But Gary was great in that movie. And Utah, give me 2. As for C-SPAN, I've never heard of this guy, Steve Scully, before. Never even heard of him before. I didn't know anyone even watched C-SPAN. I thought C-SPAN had become the equivalent of one of those webcams they set up that shows you like the pandas in the zoo. Like it's just on all day, but you don't. People kind of tune in and out, but there's not. I didn't realize that there were. I'm just being serious. I didn't realize that C-SPAN had like anchors or anything. I thought it was just kind of showing you what happens in the Senate or the Congress, that kind of stuff. So apparently C-SPAN does have people that work there as journalists. And I'm sure this guy, Steve Scully, he's not going to be as bad as, Chris Wallace was trying to make a real point because his brand is that, he's a true journo, even though he works at Fox. So we'll see. And he did a terrible job. He can blame Trump as much as he wants to. The only thing for me with Chris Wallace that was the truly unforgivable bias moment was and there were a few that were bad, but the will you denounce white supremacists is, that is straight out of the lib hack playbook. It's absurd. It was unbelievable, completely unjustified. And as soon as he did that, I'm like, all right, we're done here. Jen, hey, Buck, I listen to you every day. You give me hope. Thank you so much, Jen. Gives me hope that you listen to the show. I'm a respiratory therapist in the great, burning, murderous city of Chicago. I'm a freedom lover and also a vegetarian. Yes, we do exist. Interesting. Day after day, I speak love, but I also refuse to bend the knee. At times, it's exhausting. Thank you for bringing a smile to my face and bravery to say the truth when necessary. Shields high. Well, Jen, thank you so much for listening and for supporting the show, and it means a lot to us. And yeah, of course, there are vegans. There are vegetarians. There are vegans that love freedom, and as long as they love the Buck Sexton show, then they're good to go. Producer Mark, have you ever been forced to eat like the vegetarian entree at an event because they didn't have any of whatever it was?
Oh, because they ran out?
Yeah.
No.
See, what happens to me at places is I say I have celiac disease, so I cannot have all the yummy stuff that everyone's eating, obviously the bread before the meal. I can't eat the salad because of the croutons, and then I can't eat the meat because of the flour they use and the sauce on it, or it's breaded, or breaded pork loin, or these are all amazing things. I can't eat any of this stuff. So they always go, "Oh, don't worry, we got you covered." And then they show up with my vegetarian entree, and it's always like 3 slices of eggplant and a couple of carrots or something. And I sit here and I'm like, I don't understand how anyone can choose this life. I'm just gonna say it. I'm like, I don't get this at all. But hey, I'm sure I'm gonna get now the vegans and vegetarians, and we love you, but the vegans and vegetarians who listen to this show are gonna start. They love to send me their 6-pack abs photos and stuff like raw vegan for 15 years. I'm like, look. Whatever works for you, man. Whatever works for you. So
I could never do it, but to play devil's advocate, I believe that's just at like major catering halls and stuff. Usually if you go to a restaurant, they have something vegetarian that is actually good.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
On a vegetarian food can be good, but I'm just saying when you're at a banquet and they, and it's like what they got is what they got, and you're getting stuck with the vegetarian, it's always like, whamp, whamp, It's
always at weddings, too.
Weddings.
They always get mad.
Well, that's where I'm having flashbacks to weddings where they brought out some strips of eggplant and, like a roast radish. I always just want to be like, I got an idea. Give me French fries. That's vegetarian. How about that?
Hey, technically my wedding was vegetarian, and you ate, right? There was food.
I ate food. I don't know. They took care of me. I don't remember what. It was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I made sure I hooked you
Your
up.
wedding was vegetarian?
Technically, because it was kosher dairy.
Really?
We've gone over this on the show like 4 times.
I forget now.
Yeah.
No. I was too busy cutting it up on the dance floor. All right, Michael. I love 2 things about Trump: his desire to hang in and be president of the United States no matter his personal cost, and the facts that he makes lemonade with the lemons thrown at him. I think in the end, this and how he handles it will help Trump get reelected. Michael, yeah, I mean, look, he's hanging in there, that's for sure. And he does take what the media throws at him and does a masterful job of turning it around, which is one of the reasons why they, of course, hate him so very much and completely lose their minds over all things Trump. So there you go. And what was the last thing? Helps him get reelected? From Michael, from your lips to God's ears. Let's hope so. Next up in roll call, we've got Kevin. Producer Mark just settled a fierce debate for me. In-N-Out is fast food. In fact, the fast food. In-N-Out refers to the drive-through, and they were the first to do it. Shake Shack, on the other hand, competes at the Five Guys level, which is fast casual. Yes, thank you, Producer Mark. The fact that In-N-Out is compared to Five Guys or Shake Shack shows they're punching well above their weight class. Honestly, this is more for Producer Mark, but you have good food opinions too. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. We always like it when one of Producer Mark's cousins writes in on the show. I appreciate that.
I've never met that person before in my life, I promise.
But so you co-sign here with his fast casual analysis.
Yeah,
huh?
I'm an expert on 2 things: food and sports.
Yeah, I mean, look, Five Guys is it's delicious. It is delicious. So I go with that. In-N-Out. So here's my beef with In-N-Out. My only problem with In-N-Out Burger is that it's the French fries are not good. The burgers are great, and they'll do a lettuce wrap for me so I can eat it, which is very nice. And the animal style thing also I can eat that, but the fries are just not. You have to animal style the fries to make them worth eating. That's the honest truth.
I've still never been to In-N-Out.
This is amazing. We got to get you on a trip to L.A. because there's an In-N-Out Burger right near LAX that everyone goes to, and I do know people that have said they've missed their flights because they were stuck in the In-N-Out line. So I don't know if that sounds like an urban legend to me, but people have claimed that to me before. So maybe
I'm not missing my flight for that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not worth missing your flight for. That's for sure. Mark, I'm retired U.S. Air Force working overseas. Just want to let you know I was listening to your show pretty much every day now. After 4 years of hearing constant bashing of our president, my brain was on fire, and you and Rush were like water in the desert to me. The impressions are great, too, Dr. Fauci and the lady on The View. Thank you, and God bless. Mark. Well, Mark, thank you, man.
Mark, we really appreciate that you like Joy Behar. She's just going to, tell you things, and you're overseas, and you should watch her on The View every day.
I know, I'm mutilating your eardrums, but that way at least you know that it's Joy Behar. Eric. Hey, Buck and Mark. Been a while since I've written in, but just wanted to share 2 thoughts. First of all, your Joy Behar on Friday, bam! Again, Joy, had me laughing. Then right as I started thinking, all right, Buck, we get it. You stopped on a dime and said the listeners were probably saying, okay, we get it, which made me laugh even more. She's literally the worst. See, Eric, we have like a mind meld here. I know where the team is on this stuff. I understand. Secondly, by far, the best bad movie is Spaceballs. So many one-liners that everyone knows. That's it. Shield Tie from the Southern Territory of the People's Republic of California. Eric, thanks so much for writing in. I think Spaceballs is a comedy. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's just a little silly, but it tries to be silly. Yeah, that's different. It tries to be absurd. So I know it's a little bit of a, category gray area as we get into here. Spaceballs, I think it holds up pretty well for what it is. Maybe not. I have to go back and watch it. I haven't seen it in a long time. That's the show, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Great to have you with me. Until next time, shields high.